Positivity isn't something you wake up with. It's not genetic. It's not automatic. It's not a gift some people were born with and others were denied. Positivity is a practice, a mental discipline, a spiritual training. It's a conscious commitment to rise above the noise, to regulate your internal world, and to choose your emotional state before the external world chooses it for you. Every single day, your brain is scanning the environment for what's wrong. That's how we've survived. The mind was wired for protection, not happiness. It's programmed to anticipate threats, to remember pain, and to magnify risk. That default setting kept you alive in a dangerous world. But in today's world, where the real threat isn't a tiger but a toxic mindset, it becomes the very thing that holds you back. You are not lazy because negativity drags you down. You're human. But staying down, letting that mindset control your identity, your actions, your future, that's a choice. The most powerful shift you will ever make is the decision to take ownership over what your mind focuses on. And that's what positivity really is, ownership of your emotional attention. When you choose positivity, you're not ignoring reality. You're reframing it. You're taking back control of the narrative your mind wants to write without your permission. You're saying, I see the chaos, I see the setback, I see the uncertainty, and I choose still to bring a different energy into it. That's not delusion. That's leadership, self-leadership. And every great transformation begins there. Most people wait for life to give them a reason to feel good. They wait for the money to come, for the relationship to work out, for the problems to disappear. Then maybe they'll let themselves smile. That's the trap. That's the external control model. And it will keep you stuck forever. Because when you tie your emotional state to external conditions, you give away your power. You let circumstance dictate your chemistry. You become reactive, not creative. And life stops feeling like something you're building. It becomes something you're surviving. That's why positivity has to be a discipline, a ritual, a daily workout of the mind. Just like your body needs to move to stay strong, your mindset needs to be trained to stay elevated. You don't brush your teeth once and expect them to stay clean. You don't eat one healthy meal and expect lifelong vitality. The same goes for your emotional state. You've got to show up every day and choose how you think, how you speak, how you interpret what's in front of you. Start your day with this mindset today. I choose to feel good on purpose. That doesn't mean everything will be easy, but it does mean that your response will be intentional. You don't need the world to behave for you to feel peace. You just need to command your attention to what's working, to what's possible, to what you're grateful for, to what you're becoming, not what's been. Negativity may come knocking in the form of thoughts, stress, old stories, fear. It will whisper, you're not enough. This won't work. Nothing ever changes. Your job is not to fight that voice with willpower. It's to starve it by focusing on something higher. Positivity is not pretending there's no struggle. It's deciding that struggle won't define your vibration. And vibration is everything. The frequency you carry is the quality of the life you create. Think about how often people start their day by reacting, reaching for their phone, checking messages, getting hit with news, complaints, demands. That's training your mind to be reactive first thing in the morning. And when you begin your day in reaction, you live your life in defense. You become a mirror of the world instead of a creator in it. A disciplined mind starts the day with intention. Before the world speaks, you speak. You program your system with thoughts of strength, images of the future you want, and emotions of gratitude, not because everything's perfect, but because that is the emotional signature that pulls you forward. Your nervous system listens to what you rehearse. Rehearse joy, even if you have to start small. Rehearse peace. Rehearse resilience. Make these emotions familiar, and your brain will follow. Don't confuse positivity with fake optimism. This isn't about putting on a mask and pretending everything's amazing when it's not. It's about choosing how you want to meet the challenge. It's about showing up with courage when it's easier to shut down. Real positivity has backbone. It says, yes, this is hard. Yes, I'm scared. Yes, I don't have all the answers. But I refuse to surrender my energy to fear. Fear is loud, but it's not wise. It's fast, but it's not stable. It pulls you into survival. Positivity, when trained, anchors you in creation. It slows your breath. It opens your mind. It calms your heart. And that inner calm is where solutions live, not in panic, not in noise, but in presence. People often say, but how do I stay positive when everything's falling apart? The answer is you stay positive because everything's falling apart. You stay positive because you understand that your energy is more valuable in stormy times than in sunny ones. Anyone can feel good when it's easy. That's not mastery. Mastery is smiling in the middle of uncertainty, not because you're naive, but because you know who you are and you know what you stand for. Mastery is staying grounded while the winds rage. That is the essence of trained positivity. It takes discipline to stop mid-thought and redirect your mind. It takes presence to interrupt a downward spiral. It takes strength to say, no, I'm not going there today. But every time you do, you gain a little more power. Every time you turn toward the light, even when darkness calls louder, you reclaim a little more of your peace. And the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. Positivity isn't something you find, it's something you build. Every thought is a brick. Every moment of awareness is mortar. Every time you shift your focus back to what strengthens you, you are constructing a mindset that can hold your highest self. And no one else can do that work for you. You can be inspired, you can be supported, you can be reminded. But the daily discipline of choosing your attitude, that's your responsibility, that's your practice. That's your power. Words are not just tools for communication. They are instruments of creation. Every word you speak, silently or aloud, is a command, a frequency, a signal you send out into the universe, and even more importantly, into your own body, your own mind, and your own identity. Most people underestimate the power of their language because they've been conditioned to speak reactively, not intentionally. But language is not just a mirror of reality, it is the architect of it. You are speaking your future into existence with every sentence. You are shaping your emotional state, your beliefs, your chemistry, your self-image, all through the words you choose. If you say, I'm tired, your body listens. If you say, I'm overwhelmed, your nervous system prepares for collapse. If you say, I never get a break, your mind scans your environment to confirm that belief. And in doing so, it filters out everything that contradicts it. That's not magic. That's neurobiology. Your words activate patterns in your brain, and those patterns become habits. And those habits become identity. The most dangerous language is not the angry shout, it's the casual repetition of limitation. The small, constant statements we make about ourselves that seem harmless, but over time become truth. I'm just not good with money. I've always been anxious. This is just who I am. Those phrases might feel like facts, but they're not. They're rehearsed declarations, and what you rehearse, you reinforce. The human brain doesn't question repetition. It accepts it. It doesn't ask, is this empowering? It simply says, you keep saying this, it must be important. So when you say something often enough, your system begins to organize itself around it. Neurons wire together. Emotions align. Behavior follows. Eventually, you start to live a life shaped by those words, not because they were true to begin with, but because you made them true through focus, emotion, and frequency. To reclaim your power, you have to reclaim your language. You have to start speaking not from your current conditions, but from your chosen vision. You have to begin forming words that reflect where you're going, not where you've been. This isn't about lying to yourself. It's about choosing the direction you want to energize. If your words are windows, ask yourself, what kind of world are they opening you into? Is it a world of fear, a world of lack, a world of victimhood? Or is it a world of growth, strength, and conscious authorship? When you catch yourself speaking negatively about your life, your body, your future, pause. Ask, would I want this sentence to become a reality? Because if the answer is no, why give it the energy of your voice? Why strengthen a version of yourself that you're trying to outgrow? Words spoken with emotion are even more powerful. Emotion is the glue that sticks thoughts to identity. That's why a painful statement made in anger can echo in someone's heart for years. That's why a compliment offered with love can change a life. It's not just what you say, it's the emotional energy behind it. If you say, I can't do this, with fear in your voice, your whole body contracts. If you say, I will figure it out. With conviction, your brain begins to search for a pathway. Emotion makes the statement real to your nervous system. So use that wisely. This also applies to the way you speak to others. Every time you speak to someone, you're influencing their nervous system as well. Your words can elevate or diminish. They can heal or harm, and not just for a moment, sometimes for a lifetime. Think about the way people speak to children. One sentence, "You're so smart," or "You always mess things up," can shape how that child sees themselves for decades. That's how delicate and powerful language is. So when you speak, ask yourself, what am I planting in the minds of others? Is this encouragement or poison? Is this truth or just a repetition of my own pain? It's not about being perfect with your words. It's about being aware, noticing when you speak out of fear, frustration, or habit, and choosing differently, replacing "I can't" with "I'm learning," swapping "This is too much" with "This is a challenge I'm rising to," shifting from "I'm broken" to "I'm rebuilding." These small changes in language don't just sound different, they feel different. And when something feels different consistently, it starts to become different. Affirmations are not magic spells, but they are medicine for the mind when used with intention and repetition. When you affirm something positive about yourself, especially when it feels unfamiliar, you are not being fake. You are introducing a new pattern, one that, with time and belief, can become your new default. But it takes consistency. The same way a negative story became ingrained through years of repetition, the new story must be reinforced daily. This is why silence matters too. When you have nothing positive to say, pause. Don't just let old patterns fill the space. Sometimes saying nothing is better than feeding your future with weak words. In silence, you can reset, you can breathe, you can choose again. Even casual conversations are opportunities to practice discipline. Complaining is one of the most socially accepted forms of emotional pollution. People bond over negativity, over who's more tired, more stressed, more unlucky. But every time you complain, you are mentally rehearsing a reality you don't want. You are strengthening a neural loop that keeps you tied to a lower state. That doesn't mean you suppress your truth. It means you become conscious of how you express it. Speaking your emotions is healthy. Dwelling in victimhood is not. There is a version of you who speaks power without arrogance, who speaks vision without delusion, who speaks peace even in chaos. That version of you already exists, not somewhere far away, but behind the noise of your current language, behind the words you use every day without thinking. To meet that version of you, you must speak as if you are already becoming them. You must speak as if your words are seeds, because they are, and what you water grows. There comes a point when you realize that the real battle was never outside you. It wasn't the job loss, the heartbreak, the rejection, or the failure. The real battle has always been internal, the battle between who you are and what your circumstances try to convince you to become. And in that battle, you are never powerless. You are never truly out of options. You are never broken beyond repair. You are always more powerful than you think. Life has a way of testing you in the places where you doubt yourself the most. It doesn't ask if you're ready. It doesn't wait for perfect timing. It will push, it will pressure, and it will provoke. And in those moments, your mind will reach for the familiar. It will reach for old patterns, for panic, for hopelessness, for stories of unworthiness. That's the moment you must decide who's really in charge, the storm or the one walking through it. You are not defined by what happens to you. You are defined by how you meet what happens to you. And strength is not about pretending you're unaffected. It's not about being numb or indifferent. Strength is feeling everything. The fear, the uncertainty, the exhaustion, and choosing to keep going anyway. It's looking your pain in the face and saying, you don't get to write the ending to this chapter. Your circumstances might change, and they often will. Sometimes for better, sometimes for worse. But the truth is, external chaos doesn't have to mean internal collapse. What's happening around you doesn't need to dictate what happens within you. When you anchor yourself in inner power, you stop reacting to life and start responding from a higher state of awareness. You become the calm in the storm, the clarity in confusion, the grounded presence in a world that keeps trying to shake you. Strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it's silent resilience. It's waking up after a night of doubt and still showing up to face the day. It's choosing not to quit when everything in you is screaming for relief. It's holding the line when others have dropped it. It's believing in possibility even when all signs point to defeat. That's real power. That's emotional maturity. That's spiritual leadership. Too many people believe that strength means being unaffected by pain. But pain is not weakness. Pain is a signal. Pain is information. It's the body or the soul telling you something is shifting. Something is ready to evolve. Strength is not avoiding pain. It's knowing how to feel it without being consumed by it. It's using it, learning from it, letting it refine you instead of define you. No circumstance can take away your choice to show up with presence. No event can take away your capacity to choose your attitude. Even in the darkest moments, you still have access to awareness. You still have the ability to decide how you interpret what's happening. That's where your true strength lies, in the gap between stimulus and response. In that space, you either react from habit or respond from power. The more conscious you become, the more that space expands. And the more it expands, the more influence you gain over your own experience. There will always be things outside your control: the market, the weather, other people's decisions, the unexpected curveballs of life. But you are never at the mercy of those things, not completely, because your internal state, your emotional posture, your mental focus, these are yours to command. And when you master those, the outer world stops feeling so threatening. Circumstances may shake you, but they cannot define you unless you allow them to. Identity is not built by accident. It is forged through intention, through repetition of choice in the face of adversity. Every time you choose alignment over reaction, clarity over chaos, and faith over fear, you are building strength. And not just temporary motivation, but unshakable, embodied, lived through its strength. It's easy to talk about being strong when everything is going right, when money is flowing, relationships are thriving, and doors are opening. But that's not when strength is forged. Strength is born in the days that feel unbearable, in the nights when sleep won't come because your mind won't stop racing, in the moments when you're holding it all together by threads but still refuse to collapse. Those are the defining moments. Those are the chapters that build the character needed for the life you're asking for. The truth is, you are being prepared, not punished. Every circumstance, no matter how painful, is shaping a future version of you who can handle more pressure, more responsibility, more opportunity, more power. But before you can be trusted with more, you must prove to yourself that you won't lose yourself when things get hard, that your integrity won't disappear under pressure, that your vision won't die in the dark. That's what strength does. It protects the light even when surrounded by shadows. When everything outside you is uncertain, let your certainty come from within. When the world gives you 100 reasons to feel small, give yourself one powerful reason to stand tall, because you're still here, still breathing, still choosing, still fighting for alignment. That alone proves that your strength is greater than your circumstances, because your circumstances don't get the final say. You do. You don't need life to get easier. You need to get stronger, not harder, stronger. There's a difference. Hardness is a wall. Strength is a bridge. Hardness shuts down. Strength remains open. Strength says, this hurts, but I'm still open to healing. This is messy, but I'm still open to clarity. This is unfair, but I'm still open to growth. That openness, that willingness to stay engaged with life, even in its most challenging expressions, that is power. You are not your circumstances. You are the consciousness that navigates them. You are the awareness that observes them. You are the force that transcends them. No situation is bigger than the energy you bring to it. And the energy you bring is a choice cultivated daily through thought, focus, breath, and belief. Belief is the quiet force that determines everything you see, everything you do, and everything you become. It is not just a thought or a hope. It is the energetic permission you give yourself to move, to act, to create. Without belief, action feels hollow. Without belief, vision remains blurry. Without belief, transformation stays stuck as an idea instead of becoming an experience. When you strip everything else away, the strategies, the plans, the hustle, the outside noise, what you're left with is this simple truth. You will only ever rise to the level of what you believe is possible for you. Not what you say is possible, not what you wish for. What you deeply, subconsciously, emotionally believe, that belief sets the ceiling. It marks the boundary of your current reality. And unless you shift it, you live under that ceiling for the rest of your life, calling it fate, calling it limitation, calling it bad luck. But really, it's just belief reinforced over time, mistaken as fact. Belief begins in the unseen. It begins in the mind long before it is proven in the material world. This is where most people get it backward. They wait for evidence before they allow themselves to believe. But belief doesn't follow evidence. Evidence follows belief. Your brain is a filter, not a camera. It doesn't take an objective truth. It filters your experience based on what you believe to be true. That's why two people can live through the exact same event and walk away with two completely different stories. One finds fuel, the other finds failure. One grows, the other gives up. The difference isn't in the situation, it's in the belief system interpreting it. When you choose belief, you don't need to see the whole path. You don't need guarantees. You just need enough vision to take the next step and the willingness to trust that the step after that will appear when it's supposed to. Belief doesn't remove fear, but it gives you something stronger than fear. It gives you movement. Fear screams for certainty. Belief whispers, go anyway. Somewhere along the line, you were taught to distrust belief. Maybe you were told not to get your hopes up. Maybe your early attempts to dream were met with ridicule or silence. Maybe you tried once and it didn't work out, and you made that failure mean something about your worth. So now you hesitate, you overthink. You stand at the edge waiting for certainty before you jump. But certainty never comes because it's not meant to. The jump is what creates the certainty. The leap is what builds the wings. Belief is not passive. It's not sitting in a room repeating mantras while hoping something changes. Belief is active. It's fierce. It's alive. It means aligning your energy, your focus, your words, and your behavior with the reality you want, even when that reality hasn't shown up yet. Especially then there's what separates belief from delusion. Belief acts. Delusion waits. Belief is not blind faith. It is conscious alignment. It is saying, I will move as if this vision is already mine. I will show up in a way that proves I am ready for it. When you believe in something deeply, you don't just think differently. You feel differently. Your body chemistry shifts. Your posture changes. Your voice strengthens. Your decisions become clearer. That's because belief affects the nervous system. It tells your body what's safe, what's possible, what's worth pursuing. And your body listens. So when belief is rooted in fear, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of being seen, your body contracts, your energy closes, and your momentum slows. But when belief is rooted in expansion, in purpose, in worth, in truth, your body opens. You start to feel the fire again. And from that fire, action becomes inevitable. This is why so many people sabotage themselves at the edge of success. They're not afraid of failing. They're afraid of having their belief tested. Because once you believe in something, you become accountable to it. You can no longer hide behind cynicism or sarcasm or playing it cool. Belief requires vulnerability. It demands presence. It asks you to risk being seen going all in. And for many, that's terrifying. But what's even more terrifying is a life lived in hiding, a life where you never find out what could have been possible if only you had believed enough to try. It's important to understand that belief is not a one-time decision. It's not something you declare once and never question again. Belief is something you must return to over and over, especially when your current reality doesn't match your vision, especially when the results are slow or messy or unclear, the moment you start to drift into doubt, the moment you let your external circumstances dictate your internal faith, that's when you must come back to your belief like it's oxygen, like it's your anchor, because it is. You have to train your mind to believe on purpose. You have to challenge the beliefs that no longer serve you, the inherited beliefs, the culturally programmed ones, the ones you absorbed in childhood when you didn't know better. Every time you say, I'm not good at this, this never works for me, I don't deserve that kind of love, you're repeating someone else's story. That's not truth. That's conditioning, and conditioning can be rewritten. But rewriting belief takes repetition. Just like a muscle, belief grows with use. The more you act in alignment with a new belief, the more that belief becomes embodied. At first, it will feel like a lie. It will feel awkward. It will feel fake. That's normal, because you're not just shifting thoughts, you're shifting identity. And identity doesn't move all at once. It moves through exposure, through reinforcement, through evidence. And the only way to generate that evidence is by taking aligned action even when it's uncomfortable. Your future self already exists in potential. That version of you who moves with clarity, who speaks with power, who creates without apology, that version is waiting. But the only way to meet them is through belief. Belief in your ability to evolve, belief in the unseen forces that align when you show up fully, belief in the power within you that has survived everything so far and is still capable of more. Identity isn't something fixed. It isn't something you're born with and bound to for life. Identity is a pattern, a set of thoughts, emotions, behaviors, and beliefs that you rehearse consistently until they become familiar, automatic, and unconscious. What you repeat, you become. Every day, you are either rehearsing the version of yourself you want to outgrow or the one you want to become. Repetition is not just habit. Repetition is transformation. The reason people stay stuck is not because they lack motivation, discipline, or talent. It's because they keep repeating the identity they say they want to change. They wake up and think the same thoughts, speak the same language, respond to stress in the same ways, look in the mirror and reinforce the same self-perception. Even when they want something new, they behave as if the old self is still in control. And every time they do, the brain gets the message. This is who we are. The mind loves familiarity. It doesn't care if the familiar is painful, limiting, or destructive. It only cares if it's predictable. Predictability equals safety to the nervous system. That's why healing, growth, and evolution feel uncomfortable at first, not because they're wrong, but because they're unfamiliar. And your brain reads unfamiliarity as a threat. So when you start to change, when you begin to visualize a new future, speak in more empowered ways, challenge your own limiting thoughts, your system pushes back, not because it's not working, but because it is. To become someone new, you must make that new identity more familiar than the old one. That doesn't happen once. It happens over time through consistent repetition. Your brain changes based on what you fire repeatedly. Your neurons wire together based on what you practice. Every time you think a thought, feel an emotion, or perform a behavior, you strengthen a pathway. That pathway becomes faster, stronger, and more dominant. Eventually, it becomes automatic. That's what identity really is, the most practiced version of yourself. Repetition is the language of the subconscious mind. It doesn't learn through logic or inspiration. It learns through experience. It learns through pattern. So even if you consciously want to be more confident, more grounded, more courageous, if you keep repeating doubt, hesitation, and fear, the subconscious sees that as your truth. It memorizes it. It builds your personality around it. And then it shows up in your decisions, your posture, your tone of voice, your relationships, your energy. This is why positive change is not just about a moment of inspiration. It's about what you do with that inspiration repeatedly. Anyone can feel good for a few minutes after a motivational video or a breakthrough realization. But unless you create a new pattern and practice that pattern daily, the old identity will reclaim you. Not because you're weak, but because it's what your system has rehearsed the most. Think of it like building a path in a dense forest. Your old identity is a well-worn trail, easy to walk, easy to find, no resistance. The new identity is a barely visible track overgrown with branches and vines. You take a few steps, it feels uncertain, and the pull to go back to the familiar is strong. But if you return to that new path day after day, even if it's messy and unclear, the ground begins to clear. The trail becomes visible. The forest opens up. That's what repetition does. It carves new trails in your brain and body until what was once unfamiliar becomes your new home. Even the most empowered version of yourself isn't some magical, distant version of you. It's just a pattern you haven't rehearsed enough yet. It's a combination of thoughts, choices, behaviors, and emotions that, if practiced long enough, will become your new baseline. Confidence can be rehearsed. Peace can be rehearsed. Resilience can be rehearsed. But you have to treat it like training, not like waiting. This is why rituals matter. Morning routines, mental rehearsals, visualizations, affirmations, intentional self-talk. These are not fluffy practices. These are tools for rewiring identity. When you wake up and immediately flood your system with thoughts of who you want to be, what you're creating, how you choose to feel, and what you're committed to. You are sending a powerful signal to your nervous system. This is our new reality. You're not waiting to feel like that person. You're rehearsing being that person. And with enough repetition, it stops being practice. It becomes you. But this requires consistency, especially when you don't feel like it, especially when the old patterns start calling you back through stress, distraction, doubt, or discomfort. That's when most people stop. They think, I guess I'm not ready. I guess this isn't working. But what they don't realize is that they are standing right in the middle of the transformation process. The discomfort isn't failure. It's the unfamiliarity of a new identity being formed. And the only thing that determines whether you cross that threshold is repetition. Will you keep going? Will you keep choosing the new story, the new belief, the new behavior, even when the old one feels more real? Every time you interrupt an old pattern and replace it with a new one, you're casting a vote for your future self. Not a one-time election, but a daily vote. And the more you vote, the more you shift. The more you shift, the more your life reflects the change. You don't need to get it perfect. You just need to stay in the process, show up, rehearse, rewire, repeat. The mistake is thinking that change is a lightning bolt, a sudden moment where everything is different. But true, lasting change is more like water wearing away rock. It's subtle, it's steady, it's unstoppable if you keep going. What feels hard now will feel natural later, not because the world changed, but because you did. Because you showed up again and again and proved to yourself that your identity is not fixed, it's formed. And you are the one forming it through every repeated thought, every aligned decision, every conscious moment of choosing who you are becoming. You don't rise by chance, you rise by choice. Every moment you are alive, you are given an invitation to take back your power from the noise, the past, the fear, and the limits you've unknowingly rehearsed. This isn't about pretending life is always easy. It's about standing in the middle of what's hard and choosing a response that reflects the person you're committed to becoming, not the one you've been conditioned to be. Positivity is not a passive emotion. It is a conscious practice, a discipline that begins in the mind, reinforced through word, empowered by belief, strengthened through challenge, and made real through repetition. Your words are not just sounds. They are codes. They program your reality. Speak like someone who understands that. Your beliefs are not just thoughts. They are blueprints. They shape what you allow, what you pursue, and what you settle for. Believe like someone who has decided to never shrink again. Your challenges are not roadblocks. They are training grounds for a deeper, stronger version of you. Stand in them like someone who knows they are being built, not broken. Your identity is not fixed. It's formed, and what you repeat becomes who you are. Rehearse greatness, and greatness becomes your default. Everything you need is already inside you, not in some future version of your life, not in some distant achievement, but here. But now, in the choice you make next. You don't need permission. You don't need approval. You don't need perfect conditions. You need intention. You need consistency. You need presence. And above all, you need the courage to believe that no matter what the world says, no matter what yesterday looked like, you can choose today to be different, to think higher, to speak stronger, to stand taller, to feel deeper, to act braver. Because when you force yourself to stay positive, even when everything in you wants to give up, you're not faking strength. You're forging it. And that is where the real transformation begins.